An entitled Karen acts incredibly rude and aggressive to me and my girlfriend on the bus, even going as far as to scream at me because my bag was in her way. So I decided to get revenge and get back at this Karen in the funniest way possible, and I've never been more satisfied in my life. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I were waiting for a bus ride to go to her hometown for a wedding. As you'd expect, we had 3 bags, and they were packed to the point where zipping the bag required you to sit on it. And this is especially true for my girlfriend's bag, as she was one of the bridesmaids. Before we boarded the bus, we had to wait for the passengers who had paid beforehand to reserve a seat. My girlfriend and I definitely did not do that ahead of time. We were in somewhat of a line, which allowed for the passengers who reserved seats to pass ahead of us. The line for unreserved seat passengers was essentially respected, except by this one entitled woman, who is the entitled Karen of this story. She arrived when the line was somewhat being formed and decided to stand next to us. As our turn to board was coming up, she quickly scooted in front of my girlfriend and looked forward, as if she was completely oblivious to the fact that she had done something that was traditionally frowned upon. My girlfriend was obviously quite annoyed and started to say out loud, "Well, that's a terrible thing to do. I can't believe this woman." But I was calm, as I had counted how many people had already boarded the bus, and there was still a good chance that we'd find seats together in the unreserved rows. So I really didn't think it would call for any type of confrontation. Still, I calmly responded by saying, "Let's be honest, we can't be surprised when terrible people do terrible things." Looking back, it was unnecessary, but I was also tired, and the bags were so heavy, so I was being a bit impatient. We finally sit down, and my girlfriend chose to sit in the 2 free seats behind this entitled Karen. Now, for me personally, I would have chosen the seats in front of her, and then slowly recline my seat back every few minutes so that she wouldn't notice my act of revenge. But as it turns out, getting a seat behind her turned out to be a better plan. It's important to note that the row this entitled Karen chose was the last row with an overhead shelf for bags. The shelf was a little longer in the front, so every person essentially had a space for their bag if they moved their bags a little towards the front of the bus. It's also important to mention that the shelf was essentially empty, and I could have placed another 5 bags next to ours if I wanted to. We finally hit the road, and the entitled Karen is talking on the phone incredibly loudly, saying how she's going to visit her grandson, who is so sweet, but that he plays metal music in his room and she just can't stand the noise. After she finishes the call, she takes off her windbreaker and plans to put it above her seat. She finally sees that my bag is directly above her seat, and instead of moving her jacket 35 centimeters to the right on the shelf, or just setting her jacket on the empty seat beside her, she decides to confront me in an entitled tone. She says to me, "Excuse me, young man, but I can't put my jacket anywhere because of your fat bag being in the way." Now, I have to say I was bored, so I decided to act like this was a tragedy. I said back to her, "Oh no, what will we do? Maybe if we put our heads together, we could find a solution." When I said that, her face turned from shocked as she turned rabid with a grandma rage. She yelled back, "Well, don't you know that the shelf space is for the person directly below the seat?" I respond back by saying in a genuine tone, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I truly didn't know that was like an unspoken rule. So the space above your seat is only for you and the potential passenger next to you?" She responded back by saying, yes, it is. So please move it to your spot." And she said this in such a way which was very condescending. So I said to her, "Of course, right away." I then quickly get up, take my girlfriend's bag off the shelf, and place it on the seat where I was sitting next to her. I keep my bag in the exact same spot, and I plot myself right next to this old woman with a grin. The look on her face was absolutely priceless, as she was trying to understand what just happened. I smile at her, take my headphones out, and play some metal music way too loud so that she can definitely hear it. I don't even like metal music, but it was definitely worth it knowing she was annoyed the entire time. My girlfriend was sad I didn't sit next to her for the bus ride, but she ultimately agreed it was the best way to get back at this entitled Karen. That story's hilarious. First off, this entitled Karen should not have cut in line, and to do it so blatantly and obviously. But that in and of itself isn't too bad if you really think about it. What really would have set me off personally is having someone scream about my bag being in the way. The way she was talking to these people was just really inappropriate. But in that same notion, I think it's absolutely hilarious how the original poster got back at this entitled Karen. Sitting next to her would probably be the last thing I would want to do, but it obviously clearly worked, because not only was this entitled Karen not happy, but it also shut her up for the rest of the bus ride. So honestly, this is hilarious, and that entitled Karen definitely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My boyfriend went on a work trip without telling me that his new female coworker was also going to be there, while also failing to mention that he took her to dinner and bought a cute birthday gift just for her. And I am so confused over this sudden behavior, and I seriously don't know what to do. So for a bit of background, my partner ended up in a job with an unexpected amount of travel to visit different sites. He's been away maybe 2 out of 4 work weeks each month for the last few months, and this is Monday through Friday. I've explained how unhappy I am with the amount of time away, but accept it's a well-paid job, so it would be silly to refuse to go away and risk his job. And I can cope with it until he finds an equally paid job with little to no travel involved that he wants to do. The reason I don't like him being away so much are that I don't like being in the house on my own. There's also an increased workload while he's away. We run a small business alongside our full-time jobs, and we have a dog who's a bit of a handful. It is stressful for me when he goes away. There's a lot to do on my own, and I just don't sleep well. We've been together for 4 years with little work travel, and I wouldn't have encouraged him to apply for this job had I known the travel involved, especially when we have this dog and this business on top of our already demanding jobs. Long story short, his work trips already cause a little bit of tension occasionally. So anyways, a new girl started at his place of work, someone who will be taking over his work as he's being moved onto something else, even though it will still involve traveling. He's played her down a lot and says that she wouldn't commit to a date to come to the site this week to start the handover. This evening, I was struggling to get a hold of him, which was odd as he didn't mention he had any plans, and he usually responds pretty fast and will always answer his phone pretty much no matter what. We usually speak a lot while he's away since he's in the hotel on his own and I'm home alone. Tonight though, he didn't respond for a prolonged period of time. When he finally responded, he just said, "Sorry, I was eating," and then started talking about something else. I asked how come he didn't pick up, and he responded that he didn't realize his phone was ringing. It is usually kept on silent to his credit. It was at this point, with his responses being so far off his baseline, as well as some gut instinct kicking in, that I just bluntly asked him who he went to dinner with. And as I suspected, he didn't pick up because he was having dinner with the new girl at his hotel. And this is the same hotel that she is staying in. Now, this would not have made me worry if he had just told me about it, which he normally would have. He would have sent me a text message saying, "Heading out for dinner with such and such, may not respond for a while," or mention that she'd bothered to turn up to the site in the first place and had booked the same hotel as he did. This didn't come up in any of our messages throughout the day. He claimed she turned up really late and he had no idea that she was coming, but I find this hard to believe when visiting a site she has never been to before. He'd also been sending me lots of messages just before he went silent, so there was plenty of time to let me know what was going on. There was a bit of tension about this. However, him not telling me wasn't the end of the world. Maybe it just slipped his mind. So after explaining how I felt, I said, let's just drop it. Let's get some sleep and move on, hoping I was just tired and would wake up feeling more relaxed about it. But I honestly couldn't sleep as I couldn't shake a feeling. Well, I suddenly transformed into a social media detective, and it turns out I'm pretty good at it. Guess who posted a picture of the cute birthday present from their coworker? And the item was one of the things that we make and sell through our small business. Now, the fact that these things occur doesn't worry me. However, the fact that he didn't tell me any of it really does bother me. I take personalized gifts in for coworkers as leaving presents, but I always tell him, and I'm usually tasked with the gift rather than deciding off my own back, and they're always part of a hamper of gifts from the team and work related. And they're also not coworkers I'm staying in a hotel with and having dinner with after maybe meeting them only once or twice. Even removing the fact that he didn't mention it, I could maybe understand a little better if they had actually worked together for some prolonged period of time. But as far as he told me, they've only met twice in the office, and this was maybe the third time that they've met. I've never been concerned with what he's up to while away before or his intentions. That is until tonight, and I really don't know what to think of the situation, and I seriously don't know what to do. A few questions kind of go through my mind first and foremost. If he didn't know that she was coming to the site, why did he have a gift ready to give to her? That seems very sketchy in my opinion. And sure, you've said it best. This guy knows for a fact to check in with you while he's away for work. But instead of doing that, he literally went on a date with this lady and basically kept it from you in the weirdest way possible. Like, come on, that is so inappropriate. So hopefully some kind of conversation can come of this, and he can come to the understanding that he messed up big time, and that these kinds of actions are absolutely not okay. My husband keeps sneaking out in the middle of the night, and I don't know what's going on or why he's doing this, and I seriously don't know what to do. So as the title says, my husband keeps sneaking out in the middle of the night. For basically as long as I can remember, I've gotten up at around 4 o'clock in the morning or so, just to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and that's just how my body is. And lately, when I do so, I won't find my husband in bed. In fact, I can't find him anywhere. He does have pretty bad insomnia, and sometimes on really bad nights, I would find him in the living room watching TV or playing video games. Also, it's not every night. It's maybe every other night that he is sneaking out. I'm trying not to let it bother me, but this has been going on for about a month now, and I'm starting to get really annoyed as well as worried about where he's going and what he's doing at such weird hours of the night. It happened again the other night, and I stayed up until he decided to come home at about 6 o'clock. Mind you, I don't know how long exactly he was gone, just that he hadn't been there since about 4 o'clock in the morning. I admit I was pretty cranky and annoyed when he got home, and I asked him where he had been. He told me not to worry about it and to just let him go back to sleep. I kept pushing him though, and he said he just went out for a walk. I wasn't satisfied with that answer, but the conversation kept going back to the fact that he just wants to walk to burn any extra energy or just to clear his head when he can't sleep. So I decided just to drop it, as I was pretty tired and I had to be up in about an hour to go to work anyways. Well, it happened again tonight as well as this morning. I got up to go to the bathroom and I couldn't find my husband anywhere. Again, I was really annoyed, and I stayed up to see when he would get home. It was about 5:30 in the morning, so that's an improvement at least. When he got home, he looked so sleepy and climbed into bed, and without saying a word, I got out and took my pillow and blanket and I came to the couch, which is where I'm at right now. Now, I know it's petty to give him the silent treatment, but I'm frustrated and I just want to be by myself right now. I can even hear him snoring, so I guess his little walk worked out. I'm not sure what to do now. I'm exhausted, and honestly, I just want to know the truth. Should I confront him again about this? I'm not big on confrontation, but at the same time, I really want to know what's going on. What should I do? So this is a really sketchy situation, because for starters, if this guy has insomnia, then maybe he should start planning ahead of time to try and help himself get to sleep. Like maybe work out or go for a walk before going to bed, or something along those lines. That way you won't have to do it literally at like 3 to 4 in the morning, only to then worry your wife who's clearly trying to figure out what's going on. But in that same vein of thought, there really is no evidence of anything nefarious going on in this situation. Maybe he is literally just going for a walk and then coming back just to get to sleep. Like, is there any kind of evidence to suggest that maybe he's going out and doing something sketchy like cheating on you or going to a bar? Unless you can find any kind of evidence suggesting that that's even going on, in my opinion, it would be an awful idea to jump to any kind of conclusion. And yeah, I think you're right. Giving him the silent treatment is a really bad idea. It is incredibly petty, and it's not fair for him or anybody in the slightest. So I think an adult conversation about this really should be had, because leaving in the middle of the night like that is not normal. And I think you have every right to know what is going on. I think that my boyfriend is stealing from me and has been doing this for quite a while, and I seriously don't know what to do. So I met my boyfriend at work 1 year ago. We got into a relationship and quickly moved in together, mostly because I live with my mother and I needed to get away from her. The first month of us moving together was a bit hard financially for the both of us, especially because he was fired, and during the time he was looking for a job, I had to support both of us, but we got through that just fine. But I never hid my credit card or did anything like that because I didn't think I needed to, and sometimes I would even lend him money if he needed it. For example, him doing grocery shopping on days when I'm working. I noticed very early on strange transactions on my bank account, like Uber Eats orders, and these are things that I definitely didn't even saw or do. I even saw a transaction from a cigarette shop in front of our house. Even if we both smoke, the amounts don't match with the price of my cigarettes, and the transactions are often from days I didn't even go there. I confronted him about it, but he denied it, and even though I didn't really trust him, I let it slide because I didn't know what to do, and I don't have any real proof of him doing that. But more recently, I saw someone get $150 in cash from my card, and this is when I was working all day and he wasn't. This drove me crazy, and I looked for my card everywhere, and I found it in one of his vest pockets. I often take it, so I knew he probably put it there to say that I probably forgot it there when I'm sure I didn't. For now, I'm pretending I've lost my card. I didn't tell him that I found it, and I also noticed that he put my credit card on his Apple Pay wallet, even though I told him that I don't want him to. I really love him, but this event makes me doubt our relationship. There is a good thing associated with this, and that is that we live in a big home where I have my own bedroom. So if I do break up with him, for starters, I can keep my distance for a little bit, but I don't want that to happen. And one part of me hopes that it's not him. I just want him to tell me the truth. Should I insist until he tells me the truth? Or maybe it really wasn't him in the first place. What should I do? Honestly, it really does sound like he's stealing from you. Like seriously, this is the simplest solution to what's going on. on. Your boyfriend is literally stealing money from you and buying things off of your card and is all around just being a leech. That's not fair for you in the slightest, and I think you are in some serious denial. Like, of course it's him. Who else could possibly be doing this to you? And do you hear yourself as well? I really love him, but he's stealing from me. Whoops, let's stay together. Like, no, that's awful. If I was in your shoes, I would cancel my card because he is just gonna keep using your card on his Apple Wallet, and that's not fair for the hard-earned money that you earn at your job. You also should probably call your bank up and say, hey, I need to change all of my stuff. The PIN numbers, the card numbers, everything. And then hide your cards and maybe put them under lock and key, because this guy is obviously straight up stealing from you, and you do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. My coworker is displaying concerning behaviors towards me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I have a coworker who we will call John. That's not his real name. And John is about 40 years old. I've known him for about 2 years, and this has been ever since I started working here. It's a small company, so there is no human resources department. I gently turned him down when he expressed interest in me when I began working there. He was suddenly everywhere, becoming my work husband, which is what he called himself. Always around, invited me to lunch and social events, and showed me all the ropes. He would text me after work all the time until I found out he was actually married with a child. I met him for coffee and told him gently that I wasn't interested and I knew that he was married. He said he understood and that he had an open marriage, but he didn't want to lose me. Friends sent me screenshots of the lavish gifts he sent his wife that he posted on social media, which led me to figuring out that he was married. I cut contact with him for a few months and began dating. I was only cordial to him at work and I never texted him back. He found out and began telling mutual friends that I was sleeping around and that I was used goods, if you know what I mean. At the same time, I caught him driving by my home a few times, as well as staring at me at work. I confronted him, and he claims it wasn't him and he was only joking. Mutual friends told me he constantly complains about having to see me and that I'm obsessed and wanted him, but he rejected me. I don't know what else to do. I've told him to leave me alone, and now I ignore him, but nothing is working. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this. I feel like it's jealousy, but the difficult part for me is why he won't just let it go. What should I do? Honestly, talk to your boss. This is some creepy behavior. It doesn't matter that you turned him down. Your coworker should not be driving by your house as well as constantly staring at you at work. Like, that makes even me uncomfortable just reading it. Like, this guy is seriously a weirdo. And while yes, there is no HR department, there is still a head boss as well as an owner of this establishment. So I would first and foremost go talk to them. This guy is being a weirdo. There's no excuse for his behavior, and he is honestly heading straight for a restraining order, because this is seriously creepy. This behavior is unacceptable, and you do not deserve to get treated like this. My husband is being overly friendly with a coworker, and even lied to me at one point about a phone call he received from her in the past. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been married for almost 2 years now, and overall we have a good relationship. A couple of days ago, we both got really sick and stayed home. He got a phone call as we were both sitting on the couch and answered it. It was then that I heard a woman's voice. He got weird and took the call in the other room for like a minute. I asked him who it was and he lied and said it was his mom asking him how he was doing. His whole body language was weird and his face was flushed. So I left it, and when he fell asleep, I checked his call log just to see that the call was deleted. I then called his mom to ask if she had spoken to him recently, and she said no. I later confronted my husband about it, and he told me that it's his coworker that he works with. He found it weird that she was calling, and that's why he was acting weird. I asked him why he lied about it, and he mentioned that it was because he knows how I get with other women. I then told him not to lie to me. The lying makes me think that there's something going on. He's assured me that nothing is going on, and I honestly do believe him. I told him that if she's his coworker and calls him to check in on him while she knows he has a wife, it's weird. She doesn't understand the boundaries, or boundaries weren't clearly set up by him. I told him to be cordial but no over-friendliness, as there needs to be no confusion about his intentions or intentions in their friendship or even in their working relationship. Fast forward to today, and I see he texted her a nice happy birthday message. I don't know why I feel weird about this. I asked him not to be overly friendly or initiate anything. She is his coworker and nothing more. I mean, I don't text my coworkers a happy birthday message, and even if I did, my male coworkers wouldn't like that either. Maybe I'm just being insecure because she's an attractive woman. Am I overreacting and being annoyed by this? What should I do? Honestly, it kind of makes sense that you would get upset over this. He's texting a female coworker from work, and it seems like it's kind of going beyond what would normally be some kind of boundary set up. And it also sounds like he has not set boundaries with this lady in the slightest, mostly because it also sounds like he doesn't like confrontation. I mean, he lied to you about who he was talking to because he was afraid of how you would react. And I can bet in that same notion, he hasn't said anything to this woman because he doesn't want to upset her. And that is not fair for you specifically. Like, this is seriously not okay. And he needs to change that if he wants to see any kind of progress in your relationship. So hopefully he can set up some clear boundaries between him and his female coworker, because your husband is already married and there's no reason for him to be acting like this towards a female coworker. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.